Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Women in Engineering live chat brought to you by IEEE. My name is Laurie Itkin. I'm your host this morning and your speaker. And I want to make sure before we begin that everybody's able to access the one-page handout that is available on the Google Drive. You should be able to go to the chat window and download it. And I'll give everyone a couple of seconds to locate that, and would love to get some chats to see if people are able to find it. Just chat in if you were able to find it. Again, just chat in if you can locate and download the document. Okay, excellent. So let me tell you a little bit about myself and what we're going to accomplish today in the next hour or less. So my name, as I said, is Laurie Itkin, and I'm a financial advisor and wealth manager at a firm in San Diego, California called Coastwise Capital Group. And we are an independent boutique money manager, and we work with women and couples on basically helping manage their finances and really growing their investments, growing their retirement plans and brokerage plans and trust accounts to grow so that they can be financially secure, they and their families. I'm also the author of an Amazon best-selling book in three categories, actually, called Every Woman Should Know Her Options, Invest Your Way to Financial Empowerment. And you can, I encourage you to visit my website. You can learn more about all of this and the book at theoptionslady.com, theoptionslady.com. What we're going to do today is we are going to talk about the 4 key building blocks from my experience in building wealth. And I give this talk to all sorts of women professionals, and perfect for women engineers, women in high tech, really anybody in the STEM field. And what I want to do is really share my story with you briefly so that you feel no matter where you are in your career, you're going to know that it's possible to become financially empowered. So, my story is that when I was 24 years old, I was a finance major, so it's not quite STEM, but I'll call it math. We'll use the finance as math because, frankly, had I not been accepted to the Wharton School of the University of Pennsylvania, I would have been a math major anyway. So very similar. So when I was 24 years old and working in Washington, D.C., I had already been laid off twice in my career, believe it or not. The time was when I graduated from college, it was 1990, not dissimilar in terms of the economic environment as we have been since the fiscal crisis in 2008, in this country, in the US. And I know we have people from all over the world. So I do want to let you know that a lot of what I'll be talking about is US centric, but I think a lot of the major points are relevant for women all over the world. So I had been laid off twice already at 24. And when my grandmother, who was poor, died, she left me a huge inheritance of $1,600. That's US. Wasn't very much. And quite frankly, most women at that age would probably spend their money on what? I'm going to allow you the opportunity to chat in what you think most 24-year-old women would spend their windfall on. So I'll give you a couple of seconds. Let's make this fun and interactive. So chat in what you think women at 24 years old would spend $1,600 on. Well, I don't see any of the chats coming in yet, but oh, here we go. Oh, isn't that funny? Oh, I love it. We're getting some good answers. Um, this is just so funny. I have given that I have told this story. I've shared this story for several years, all different audiences, and I always get the top three. This is everywhere. Number one, clothes. Number two, shoes. And number three, handbags, purses. And sure enough, that's what you've said. And some of you also said that you'd spend it on fun. But it's funny, a lot of women think shopping is fun. I hate shopping. I do everything online. I don't want to go to a mall. But anyway, yes, at 24 years old, I very much wanted to spend my money, especially on shoes. For me, it was shoes. Because at that time there was no business casual. You had to wear suits and high heels and all that. So thank you for your answers. But I did not spend it on clothes or shoes. I actually thought, wow, I cannot rely on an employer for financial stability. I'd already been laid off twice, and so there was no concept of a steady paycheck coming in. And so I thought, what am I going to do to really start building and protecting myself for the future? And so I decided to take that $1,600 and invest it. And I bought 40 shares of Starbucks stock. And yes, I got very lucky because as a financial advisor now, I would never advise anybody to spend their money on one stock because that stock could be very successful. That company could go bankrupt. And in those days, we didn't have something called ETFs, exchange traded funds, which they've really taken the place of mutual funds, and they're low fee. Many of them are low fee, and they give you a diversified portfolio with just one purchase. But we didn't have those then. We just had mutual funds, and it was very complicated. So anyway, I bought my stock. But let me tell you, ladies, that sense of empowerment I felt getting my statement in the mail every month, reading the Wall Street Journal, seeing the stock go up, the stock go down, it go up, it go up, 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 it go down a little bit. Let's just say this set me on a life course where remember, I was 24 years old when I started investing. By the time I turned 40, I had a net worth of over $1 million. Okay? And what does that mean, net worth? It means that all my assets, my retirement accounts, my brokerage accounts, where and minus my debts, right? I had a net worth of just slightly over $1 million. Not much over $1 million, but I hit that mark. So it is possible, especially for women in the STEM field. You're getting paid more than most women. So let's look at the download, the pictures, and feel free, by the way, to send messages in whenever you want. Please chat any questions. Please chat any comments, and I will every few minutes take a break and see what we have in the chat window. So please take advantage of that. So if you look at the one pager I've provided for you, there's really 4 building blocks. The first is negotiate for what you're worth. So we're going to talk a little bit about career. The second point is live below your means. This is very important. This is the most important rule for building wealth. The third is going to be keep more of what you earn. And I mean, be really smart, especially in the United States, about tax efficient investing, tax deferred accounts. We'll talk a lot about that. I know we're going to have a lot of questions on that. And then finally, invest. Invest wisely, invest proactively. You cannot earn wealth by saving a lot of money and keeping it under your mattress, or putting it in a savings account earning less than 1%, or a certificate of deposit. The interest rates are so low these days, you're just not going to build wealth. So let's start with the first one. This is a hot topic: equal pay day, equal pay for men and women. I've spoken a lot about this issue. And again, talking to women engineers, what I found is that, especially in the engineering field, I do not believe the gap between men and women, what they're paid, is very large. I think the gap is larger in other fields, because you come in, many engineers are individual contributors. They're not in management, and so the gap between men and women is very small. Now, as you start getting promoted and getting in management, we may find a wider gap. But let me just give you some tips based on my experience. I mean, how did I become worth $1 million? Well, I started my first job when I was 20. Well, I was 22 years old, my first job, and I made $24,000 a year. Now with inflation, it would be a lot more now, but I made $24,000 a year. And, I told you I'd been laid off, but when I would negotiate for a new job, I would always try to start with a higher salary. And I moved all over the country for my career. And I mean, in terms of my earning potential, I started at $24,000 a year. And then, I became, I had a few jobs, and then I became, I moved. And then when I started really making money was when I became a manager, and I was making about 80,000 at the time. And then for my next job, I moved to San Diego, and I got a director position, and I made 110,000 starting. And then with bonuses and so forth. And then finally, I moved again to another company to become a VP. So you can't be afraid to leave your company if you don't feel like you're getting paid what you're worth, if you're not getting that promotion. It's very scary, but I've always said I had two full-time jobs. I had the full-time job I was doing, and I had a full-time job looking for my next job. That's what you have to do. A lot of companies are very good at promoting from within, but most companies are not. So, and I know it gets very difficult. I mean, I stayed single for a long time. If you have a family, I know this is very difficult to move, but I know a lot of women in engineering where they are the primary breadwinners and the husband moves with them. Of course, if you're single and you delay having children, you have the ability to move, and don't be afraid to move. Again, that's what I did. And, if you can't get anywhere in your current situation, you need to know what's out there. And I always encourage people to interview, even if you really don't want to leave your current position. Go ahead, interview for other jobs. See what the salaries are, see what the benchmarks, and don't be afraid to talk to your HR department, talk to your boss, ask what you can do to be on the track to get a raise and a promotion. Because if you don't know what your company needs and will reward, how will you ever get there? Okay. So I want to see if we have any chat, if we have any questions about this, any stories you might want to share that could be helpful with other women on the call, any successes you've had in terms of increasing your compensation. Let's see if we get any chats on that. So the one question I received is, Laurie, I've gone to my boss and I've asked him what I can do to get a raise and get a promotion, and he doesn't really take me seriously. Well, in that case, some of us have bosses that really aren't invested in our development in the company. In that case, I would really encourage you to find other men and women, not just women, but other men and women in the company and that are a little more senior than you, and let them know your interest in taking more responsibility in moving up in the company, and really let people know that you're ambitious and develop allies and people who will be champions for you. And this can take a matter of years, okay? But it's very important that not only your boss, but everyone around you understands that you are ambitious, you know what you're worth, you're ready to negotiate what you're worth, and they need to see that you understand your value. That's going to make you a lot more confident and actually provide you with some empowerment. Okay, so easier said than done, though, I know. Okay, so the next part of this is we all can do this. Live below your means. Now, I lived in a roach infested studio apartment for 5.5 years early in my career because I needed to save. I had student loans. I remember I was 31 years old when I paid off my last installment of my student loan. I mean, I remember there were times, especially when I was laid off, I didn't even have $20 to go out to dinner with friends. It was really tough. And once I started advancing in my career, I started making more money. But I did not change my living standard to match what I was making. I always lagged it. I always lived much more frugally than what I could really afford at the time. This is so important because once I was making more money, but I really didn't lift my living standards much, I had money to invest, because we're going to get to invest. If you are in debt, if you are paying for a mortgage for a home you cannot afford, that's not good. If you have credit card debt, that's not good. Student loan debt, many of us have it these days. That's can be good debt because you've made an investment in your education. But car loans, you've got to really see what you can do to reduce your standard of living. And your household, in most cases, is your most expensive thing. It's your greatest expense. So whatever you can do early in your career to live with roommates, I know you may want a 1-bedroom, maybe you have a studio. I know you want a 2-bedroom, maybe you have a 1-bedroom. I know you want a home, maybe you have a condo. Always think like this, because you want to make sure that you have a safety net if something were to happen to you or anyone in your family or a friend. So always think about, as you're increasing your income, please don't increase your expenses to match that, all right? Now, the third point, and this is very important, is when I talk about keep more of what you earn, what I'm talking about is take advantage of the benefits you get at work and the tax deferred accounts. So many women I know do not max out on their 401k. If you work for a corporation or a small company, you probably have a 401k. Now, there are some small companies that do not have 401ks. They may have a different kind of retirement plan. They may not have any retirement plan. If you work for a nonprofit or the government, there's a retirement plan. Now, I'm not well versed with retirement plans in other countries. Many have them, some do not. So I encourage you to get smart about what you have in your country. But in the US, if you're working for a company, please contribute to your 401k. What this does is this takes money that you would earn and would be taxed. And if you live in a state like California, where there's a federal tax and a very high state rate, if you're making let's say you're single and you're making $100,000 a year, you may be in the 25% federal bracket. You may be in the 28% federal bracket. If you are married and you have other income coming in, you may be over 30%. And then in the state of California, very quickly you're in the 9% bracket. So just think about that. You may really only be taking home 60 cents on the dollar, especially as you get up the ladder. And so if you can contribute that money to your 401k, that dollar that would otherwise be taxed, leaving you with 60 cents to spend or save, that whole dollar will go into your retirement account, and it will build, it will compound without taxes being taken, because whatever you're investing in, normally if you were not in a tax deferred account, you would be paying taxes on it every year, whatever your gains are, whatever dividend income, bond income. That's how I became a millionaire before I was 40. I maxed out on my retirement vehicles. I also used an individual retirement account, an IRA. If you're self-employed, you can use a SEP IRA. There are so many ways to make sure that you keep more of what you earn. Now, when you're retired, you ultimately, in many cases, will have to pay taxes, but that account is going to grow. It's amazing, the power of compounding. I often get lots of questions about the differences between IRAs and what do I do about a match and this and that. Please chat in any questions you may have about retirement plans, and we'll wait a few minutes for that. So you may want to ask about maybe your company offers both a Roth IRA, a Roth 401k, and a traditional 401k, or maybe you're confused about opening up a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA. Please chat in questions about that. Also, sort of related to this, if you have children and you want to save for college for them, a lot of people open what's called a 529 account. And that's a way that you use after-tax money, and you actually you take after-tax money and you actually put it in what's called a 529 account, and that will also compound without taxes being taken out. So I did get a question that says, if you cannot do the max for the 401k, what is a reasonable amount that you should do? This is a great question. I get this question all the time. So just to let you all know that if you're with a company with a 401k, actually a nonprofit may have a 403b, and if you work for the government, you may have the TSP. If you are under 50, the maximum amount that you can contribute a year is $18,000. If you're over 50, you can contribute $24,000. And usually over time, these thresholds get a little larger, not every year, but because of inflation, usually they get larger. If you cannot afford 18,000, which many of us cannot afford 18,000, see if your company provides a match. And that means that you may put in a percentage of your income and they match some or all of it. And that match goes into the 401k and also accrues without taxes being paid on it every year. So you definitely want to do whatever you can to contribute up to the match, because that's free money. Your employer, think of it as a bonus, think of it as a raise. I mean, you've got to get the match. So in some cases, you may have to contribute 3% of your salary, 4%, even 6% of your salary to get the match. That's usually the most common. Now, another strategy is, and let me just see if we have any more questions related to that. And just strive to do it. What you can also do is, some people get bonuses at work. The best way to do it is have a deduction every paycheck. But if you find that you are going to be in a better position at the end of the year and you've saved, you may want to make an extra contribution to a retirement plan. And if you haven't maxed out on the 401k, You may want to look at near the end of the year, seeing if you can increase the percentage withholding. If you talk to your HR department, but you usually have to give them a lot of notice because they're not so fast often. So you may want to be thinking early November, can I make more of a payment? Or you can open up a Roth IRA if your income is not too high, and that would be taking after tax money in your savings and putting it in the Roth. You may also want to do, depending on your situation, like if you're not offered a 401k plan at work, if your company is small and they don't offer a retirement plan, you can open up your own traditional IRA and take a tax deduction for contributing to it. So there's all sorts of vehicles, especially self-employed people. I really encourage folks to make a contribution to the retirement plan. And you can do a lot of reading. There's so much free information on the internet. Even before you talk to a financial advisor, you can do some research just by Googling what's the best retirement plan for me, types of IRAs. Again, this applies to the US. So, always you've really got to try to do the max. Okay, so now let's talk about the meat of this, investing. You cannot grow your way to wealth by saving. Nope. It has to be saving and investing. And investing, you have to take risk. A lot of people would rather invest in real estate than the stock market, but that's really impractical because in order to invest in real estate, you usually need a lot of money, whereas with the stock market, you can invest with a small amount of money. I tell people, I manage money for people who are what we call mass affluent, people that are, probably, most of my clients make over $100,000 a year, some less. But what I also do is I teach people how to start investing with only $5,000. And I do that through an investment education package. And you can go to my website, theoptionslady.com, and read about those services, because I feel like so many money managers, we only want to deal with the wealthy or the up and coming wealthy, but then we have a whole population of underserved people, and I believe everybody should have the opportunity to be financially literate. Everybody should have the opportunity to invest and build their wealth. So, I take a couple of clients a month where I use Skype and screen sharing, and they open up a brokerage account or an IRA account, and I basically use screen sharing so I can see their account, and I help educate them on stocks, on mutual funds, on exchange traded funds, and show them how to build their own portfolio, how to get started. It's very fulfilling work that I do. I also volunteer for people who are low income, veterans, elderly. I do some pro bono through the San Diego Financial Literacy Center. But I believe the coaching that I do for people who have $5,000 they've saved or more is really hitting and serving people that aren't poor but aren't wealthy. So usually what I do with that is I give videos about explaining what stocks are, what bonds are, what mutual funds, what exchange traded funds are, and work with you over a couple of months so you feel comfortable that so there may be a company that you think might be successful that you want to invest in, or maybe you don't want to pick specific companies, but you just want your money to grow over time. There are vehicles, ETFs, where you can invest, you can buy one thing, and that's a exchange traded fund that mirrors the top stocks in the US, or gives you a tiny portion of every stock that's publicly traded in the world, or you can actually invest in real estate through the stock market, or you can buy bonds, which is lending to governments or companies. And what women tell me is it's so overwhelming. They don't know how to get started. And I help them. So again, I encourage you to go to the options lady, check it out. All my investment education packages are $500 or less. So, and there's also a lot of information you can find online for free, tons of resources on how to get started investing. If you just Google, how do I get started investing, you'll find tons of sites that will teach you. So what I did, how I went from that $1,600, so let me just tell you how I did it, because I know we have many women on the chat who are in their 20s and 30s, and I'm in my late 40s now. So what I did is I mentioned I started with that $1,600 and I bought Starbucks. And again, I was lucky. Starbucks, it went down sometimes, but it mostly went up. But it set me on this life course that when I excelled in my career and when I got paid more money, I would wait for maybe $500 extra to accumulate in my checking account, when I get my paychecks, and I would just transfer 500 into my brokerage account. And I would look at, well, what stocks I might want to add, and I just would buy some and buy some. And I was smart in terms of taxes because there are short-term capital gains and long-term capital gains. So if you hold something over a year, and before you sell it, you're gonna get taxed at a lower rate than if you day trade, if you're buying and selling. And every time I got a bonus, I didn't go out and buy a car. I didn't go out and refurnish my apartment. I bought stock. And I did this over a period of years, and you can see. And on average, the US stock market returns about 8% a year, 7 to 9% a year. Now, that's on average. So you have to be thinking with a long-term mindset. So many women tell me, Laurie, I'm afraid to invest because I don't want to lose any money. You will lose money. If you start with $50,000, you may at some point be down to $40,000. You may at some point be up to $60,000. That's how it works. The stock market doesn't just go up. But over time, we've seen that over 20-year periods, if somebody's coming to me and says, I want to open up an individual retirement account, maybe I have an old 401k from an old employer, and I want to roll it into an IRA. And I say, well, look, if you're 37 years old, you're not going to be accessing this for retirement for at least 20 years and probably longer. And you want to be mostly in stocks. If you have a long-term time horizon, in 2008, the stock market went down about 38%. That was a huge loss. But in 2013, those same stocks went up about 30%. That's volatility. You've got to be comfortable with that. You're doing the same thing when you invest in your 401k at work. You've purchased some sort of mutual funds, and you are every time money's deducted from your paycheck, you're going to buy more shares. And sometimes you're buying fewer shares at a high price, and when the stock market goes down, you're buying more shares at a lower price because you're putting a fixed amount of your paycheck every month. It's called dollar cost averaging. And I know it sounds scary if you never invested, but it's the way to build wealth. So let me talk about, should you work with a financial advisor? A lot of people think they don't have enough money to actually go to a financial advisor, but many of us who do manage money, we also provide financial planning for a flat fee. So you may be in a situation where you can find an advisor who may charge $150, $200 an hour. It may sound like a lot of money, but if you can get a few hours of some good advice, looking at your student loans, looking at your rent, looking at your income, looking at your mortgage if you own a house, looking at where you are in your retirement planning, figuring out a way that you can save more by not paying in taxes. I mean, if we can save you from paying the tax man, we've earned our keep. So I encourage you, to consult with a fee-only financial advisor and see if they can help you. You would consult with a doctor if you weren't feeling well. If you were having trouble in your marriage, you would consult with a therapist. So again, I encourage you to do that. Um, and I think we have another question. We have a question about what advice can you give about debt reduction? Yeah, okay. That's just what I talked about early on. I said live below your means. If you live below your means, it's hard to accrue debt. Now, student loan debt is the exception. It's a crisis in this country. And that is going to be a debt that hangs on people's heads for a long time. But if you have gotten into credit card debt, there are a few schools of thought. I think it's very important if you have credit card debt, maybe you have multiple credit cards, you want to pay off the high interest debt first. And if you don't know what interest rate you're paying right now, you call that 1-800 number on the statement and you find out. It is shocking, the fees. If you're late with a fee, if you're paying the minimum, you may be paying 15, 18%. And if you are paying 15 or 18% on your credit card, you'll never get ahead. You'll never have money to invest. You'll never have enough money to max out your 401k. A lot of people, I believe, buy a home or buy a condo and take out a mortgage when they should still rent. I know I'm different. I know a lot of people believe in the so-called American dream that you should buy a home because you have to live somewhere and it's a good investment. It's not always a good investment. We saw from 2004 to 2010, real estate prices really plummeted. We saw in 1990, real estate went down. Just like stocks, real estate can go down. So if you are, what I did not, that's also the reason I had so much wealth. I did not take anything out of the stock market to use as a down payment on a house. I did not want to take $150,000 out of my brokerage account to make a down payment on a home. So I'm really encouraging people to rent even well into their 30s because buying a home is very difficult. If you were to lose your job or you are two incomes and your spouse loses their job and you can foreclose on the home, you can lose the home, it can be devastating. It can ruin your credit history. Renting, people say, well, I'm not getting a tax deduction, it's throwing money in the garbage can. You are getting a tax deduction if you rent and you're able to max out on your 401k. You're deducting $18,000 a year from tax. So there's different schools of thought on that. But definitely, if you have the credit card debt, you've got to try to cut your expenses and pay down that debt as soon as you can. I don't know that much about consolidation. There are services that will help you consolidate your debt. I think you can, I always encourage people to do research. Research is free. Talking to people, getting a complimentary consultation. And again, another financial advisor should be able to help you get on a plan to do that as well. There's a way to make automated payments, but the big thing is don't get into debt in the first place. And you won't have these problems. Again, easier said than done. Any more questions on investing? So keep chatting them in. I want to talk a little bit about not delegating all your finances to your partner or spouse. 90% of women at some point in their lives are going to be solely responsible for managing their entire financial picture, managing their investments, managing their debt, managing their income, managing their household. When we're single, obviously we're doing that. And when we're married, there is a potential that we may outlive our husbands or our wives. We may get divorced. And so it is imperative, even if your spouse takes responsibility for investing, please try to play an equal role, if not the primary role. And that means that if your family has a financial advisor, you should be going to those meetings. You should be leading the meetings. You want to make sure that any of these issues about how the money you work for is saved for your children's college, if it's how it's saved and invested for your retirement, because if you defer everything to your spouse, your spouse is actually determining your quality of life in retirement. Because as we said, women generally live longer than men. And unless you're going to marry a man who's 15 years younger, you'll probably outlive him. And I work with a lot of divorced women, and it's very scary because sometimes they may get child support, sometimes spousal support. Assets have to be cut in half most cases, and then you're trying to live on two households with the money that was used to support one. And I always encourage women who are contemplating divorce or whose husbands have filed for divorce, talk to a divorce finance professional. I have that certification as well. I'm called a CDFA, a Certified Divorce Financial Analyst, CDFA, and we help individuals and couples figure out all their finances before they go to a mediator or before they spend tons of money on a lawyer. Because when you litigate a divorce and you're arguing about who gets what, it can be very costly. So I always like to help women in particular understand before they go through that process what might be a fair settlement in terms of the money part. Give them options, understand how they may be able to be on their own and what to ask for and what to fight for. So I welcome any questions about that. So come on in and text any questions about, I think I've covered all the points. If you have any questions about negotiating what you're worth, living below your means, keeping more of what you earn by contributing to retirement accounts, either pre-tax or post-tax, like a Roth IRA, and also any questions on investing and how to get started or how to know you have the right financial advisor, what questions to ask. I have a book, I mentioned it early on, called Every Woman Should Know Her Options. And in that book, I do have in the back questions you should ask a financial advisor when interviewing that person. That's very helpful. I also talk about how to get started investing, and I also teach about just how compound interest works, how investing works. And so you, as engineers, you are not afraid of math. You can see how this works with some charts I include. So I have a question about what advice can you give to someone looking to tackle their student loans? This is a huge issue. Student loans is like this huge albatross hanging around. What I did, I think I mentioned I had student loans from an undergraduate education, and I struggled in my early and mid 20s about, should I get a graduate degree? Should I get an MBA? Should I go to law school? And you know what? I decided not to get a master's because I was having problems paying off my student loans from my undergrad. And I think with my drive and perseverance, I became very successful without a graduate degree. But I know that we know the statistics that with a graduate degree, you do have usually more earning potential. But I made that difficult decision. And I think, with the student loans, there's no easy answer here. You've just got to live very frugally and pay those off. If you have a reasonable interest rate, pay the minimum and make sure that you're trying to also invest in your 401k at least enough to get that match. It can be done. And you may have to be paying your student loans for 20 years, a long time, but if you can structure it so that you have affordable monthly payments while still building up your retirement plan, I think that's the way to go in most cases. So we are going to be wrapping this up. I'll keep the chat open for a few more minutes. I encourage you to sign up for my monthly newsletter. I give it's a sort of a drip way you can learn more about investing. I provide some good articles and just a bunch of stuff about personal finance. You can always opt out, but you go to theoptionslady.com, put in your information, sign up, and feel free. I try to answer. You can also send me an email contacting me personally. The way to contact me is also on the website, and I try to answer all emails when I can within 48 hours. And I think with that, I'll just wait just a couple more questions, and then we'll wrap it up and let you have time to enjoy the rest of your day. So I do offer, I got a question. I do offer a complimentary consultation on the phone. We can spend 20 to 30 minutes. What I like to do is have you send me an email first, tell me a little bit about your situation and what you're looking for, and then we can make our telephone call a lot more efficient. But yes, if you I I do anything about investing. If you're looking how to get started in investing, if you want, some people avail of the service where I'll do a complimentary portfolio review if you have money invested elsewhere and you want me to take a look at it. I also have a one-time package if you want me giving advice on how to reallocate your 401k if you're not sure what mutual funds you should be invested in. So really anything that comes that pertains to investing, let me give you a complimentary consultation, and if we think we can work together, we'll know from there. So again, with that, I'm Laurie Itkin. My website is theoptionslady.com. I want to thank Women in Engineering and the IEEE for giving me this opportunity to share my story and my wisdom and advice to members of we, and hope this has been helpful. I know a lot of people are early in their careers and struggling with student loans, but you will get out of that. You will a decade from now, you'll be in a different situation, and I hope you educate yourself about investing and how to grow your wealth. So thank you very much, and everyone have a great day. Take care.